All right, good evening and welcome to Tuesday night. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's Craig Turton. I'm the proud co-founder of a men's health organisation called 100 Words Mate to Mate. Tonight, we are running our show as we do each and every week called Mate to Mate at 8. Okay, at 100 Words, what we try and do, we are a non-for-profit men's health organisation trying to raise awareness about men's mental health in this country and also reduce the stigma around men's mental health. 7 men take their own life every day in this country. Okay, it is an extraordinary figure and it is only getting worse. If you are a man in this country aged between 16 and 44, the biggest killer of men in this country between that age group is themselves. Okay, so if you're just outside that age group, odds on your son is about to enter that age group. So night like tonight, what we're trying to do here at 100 Words Mate to Mate is show you how easy it is to have a conversation with your mate. I've rung a mate of mine tonight that we're going to speak to, and this is how it works. These are the rules of engagement to mate at 8. They're this. No longer do you ring a mate and say, "G'day, mate, how you going?" He says, "Good." He asks you, "How are you?" You say, "Good," and that's it. You know nothing about him. What we like to do here at 100 Words is we start every conversation with, "G'day, mate, how's your day been out of 10? Or how's your week been out of 10? Okay? Now, we've asked you how your day is out of 10, so the poll's just come up there on the screen. So fill that out as you jump on and tell us how your day is out of 10. Now, I say this every week. I am, in fact, a house painter. I paint houses for a living, have done for 28 years. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Trust me, my friends will attest to that. Now, if any of the conversation tonight gets a little bit too heavy, okay, feel free to ring 131114, and that's the number for Lifeline. There is always someone there to answer your call. Okay, we hope it doesn't get that to that stage, but if you do feel like that, there is always that number to call. Now, we've had a truckload of people jump on. We've got people that are 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and 6 out of 10. Okay, thank you for filling that out. Guaranteed tonight, after you hear from this man, you will be inspired to make some changes in your life, I can assure you. Now, tonight's guest, unbelievable. Graeme Alford, in the 70s, he was one of Australia's most successful lawyers, who after that just lost his way due to alcohol. He became an alcoholic, and his fall from grace was really, really quickly and really, really public. Okay, he found himself in jail not once, not twice, but 3 separate occasions. One of them was for armed robbery. It got to the point where Graeme was sitting in jail, and it got to the stage where it was like, give up or get up. And that's what he's lived his life by ever since. Since he got out, he's gone on and raised over $250,000 for life education. He's also brought to fruition the inaugural World Masters of Business in 1997, where he had some of the biggest names in the world come to this country for the very, very first time. He's the proud author of 3 best-selling novels called Never Give Up, Inspirational Brain Food, and Stop Sucking on Lemons. I've got a few mates that I could give that book to right now. He's been a keynote speaker all over the world. He's done it in front of millions of people. He's worked with some of the top 500 companies in the world. He's known in the industry as the comeback kid. He's just lost 15 kilos, he just told me. We are so lucky to have the great man, Graeme Alford. Thank you so much for coming on our humble little show tonight. Mate, how was your day out of 10?
9.
9. Do you have a lot of 9s, Graeme?
Never less than 9, always 9 or 10. Only time it hits 8 is I've had a bad round of golf.
Does that happen a lot?
Lately it has, actually. So I've had a couple of 8s, yeah. How's your day been out of 10 anyway, Turs?
Had a pretty good start. Had an ordinary phone call in the middle of the day, which upset me greatly, but I've since found out that person's going a little bit better this afternoon, mate, and came home. Kids were happy, wife was happy, and that always makes me at least an 8. And talking to you, mate, if I'm not a 9 by the end of the day, I'll be very surprised.
Just before you go on, Turs.
Yeah, mate.
I'm interested in what's the baseline that we decide whether it's been a 3, 4, 8, 9 or 10. I've got locked in my mind some bad days.
Yep.
Back when I was getting arrested for armed robbery and all that sort of stuff and ricocheting off police cell walls and everything. But the one that stands in my mind was Christmas 1980, and I'd been arrested Christmas Eve, spent the night in the watch house. My mother and my brother came in to bail me out next morning, Christmas Day. And the look on their faces, they brought me out of the cells from the watch house, was just the pure disgust. And I'll never forget how low I felt. But it got worse. When I got home, the police had been there and had unwrapped the presents looking for stolen goods. That is my definition of a bad day. So whenever you ask me out of 10, if that's 1, it's very hard to get below 9.
I can imagine if that's your 1, and look, one's everyone's 1 or 2 or 3 is different.
Yep.
But as I say to everyone, if you're having a 3, that's your 3. But I think the beauty of asking people how the day is out of 10 is you get to know that rather than going, "G'day, mate, how you going?" Because the response to that is, yeah, no one says I'm shit and I'm really struggling. But if they say 3, it's fairly universal.
It's very easy to mark yourself down because something's happened during the day. But life happens.
Yeah.
It's how we view it. But if you look back over your past and pick out a couple of really dark days, it might have been when your mum died or your dad died, whatever. If that's a 1 or a 2, normal days can't be anything less than a 7 or 8. They just can't be.
It's a fair thing. I spoke at my old man's funeral at the age of 25, and if ever I'm having a bad day, I always go back to that point. I taped the whole funeral, so there's a song called "The Angel" by Sarah O'Loughlin, and whenever I'm struggling and having a shit day, mate, it's in the car, and I just hit that, and I go, you know what? If I can speak at my old man's funeral at the age of 25, I can, whatever I'm dealing with, pales in insignificance. So I've really got that backboard to work off. No dissimilar to yourself. I think everyone's got that one, and I think that's really important to have that to go back to and go, you know what? I got through that. I can get through whatever I'm going through.
Yeah, and if that's a 2, then how does today compare with it?
Yeah, when you put it like that, today was probably only not a 4, probably about a 7.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, it's a really good point, mate. And
I'm just finishing off my can of soft drink.
Now that's how you lost all the weight. You told me the Coke Zero, mate.
Absolutely.
Now, mate, fair to say you've had a colourful career.
Yes, it has been.
Do you want to let people in on that?
Yeah, I went to a private school, Trinity Grammar and Kew, mum owned pubs, and I was brought up in a drinking culture. Real men drink, and you drink on Sundays, you drink on Tuesdays, you drink at night, you drink during the day, you drink at funerals, you drink at weddings, you drink whether it was hot, you drink whether it was cold. And real men don't cry, and real men fix their own problems. And I was brought up in that culture, and I've said a number of times, I wish drinking had been an Olympic Games sport. I wouldn't have made the team, but it wouldn't have been for the lack of training. And I went to uni, and then I started practicing law, and I wanted to become the sharpest criminal barrister in Melbourne. And so I started acting for all the underworld and got really close to them. And I couldn't wait 10 years to hit the top. I was going to do it in 2. So I cut every corner and I broke every rule. I was drinking with them, I was partying with them, and next minute it got out of control. I was drinking really heavily, and it got worse and worse. And I was drinking 20 or 30 beers every day. And I used to play
20 or 30 beers every day.
Yep. Except for Sunday. I used to lay on the couch on a Sunday like a big beached whale, drinking chocolate Big M's to put the fire out.
Wow.
And I used to make these rules, like I never drank during a court case. But I practiced mainly in the magistrate's court because trials kept getting put off, and trials went all day, and that didn't suit me.
No.
So I was doing that, and like I'd say to my first wife, Maureen, I'll be home at 5 o'clock, but I just forget to tell her which day. And I just broke every rule in the book. And in the end, I was punting, I was going with a 2-up, I was running racehorses, and we were doing all sorts of crazy things. And the drink took me on a wild ride, and it was a fantasy ride because I didn't see this happening. I thought I was going okay, and that was the trick it played on me. I got disbarred in 1979. My trust account was just a bit short of where it needed to be, and I distributed evenly between Moonee Valley, Flemington, Caulfield, the Olympic Park Dogs, the 2-up and the Baccarat. So I got a couple of years jail, lost a lot of weight, and but it never occurred to me alcohol was my problem. So I got out, applied for jobs as if I was still a lawyer, didn't get them, couldn't handle the resentment, so I joined the underworld. The hours were short and the money was terrific, but it was never going to last being an alcoholic. And in 1982, I was arrested for robbing a bank in Chapel Street, Paran. And I'll never forget, it was October the 15th, and I got arrested, and the next day bail was refused, and I was back out in Pentridge in the yards again. And I'm sitting next to the water fountain, and I'm saying to myself, how did it finish like this?
Yeah.
This isn't a normal career path for a lawyer.
How old were you at that stage, Graeme?
33. And I was just in one, I'll never forget it, I was just in one big black hole. It just seemed overwhelming. And I can remember saying to myself after an hour, just sitting there, and a couple of guys who I knew were coming up and talking to me, do you want a coffee? No. And I remember thinking to myself there and that night in my cell, you know, I've really only got two choices here, I either give up or get up. And I knew I was going to get 10 years. I was caught out the front of the bank, so I'm pretty confident the jury wasn't going to accept that I was just window shopping in Chapel Street, Paran, with overalls and gloves and a balaclava. So I didn't want to die of failure. I didn't want to pass through this world and not unwrap whatever skills and talents I might have had. So I made a decision I was going to get up. And I did 4.5 years jail. And I worked almost every day of that 4.5 years on getting myself right. I got out in 1986. I worked as a labourer in a scrap metal yard for a year. Then I worked at Budget Rent-A-Car for 3 years. Then I set up my own business and started putting on business speaking events, and everyone got bigger. I've got that compulsive tune. Everything I do, it's full bore. If I'm eating cashews, I eat the packet and go down the street and buy another packet. So everyone got bigger. And the last one in 2000, we brought out Nelson Mandela, Reuben Carter, the hurricane. And there was 45,000 people at Etihad Colonial Stadium, so it was known then. And it was a high wire act. I nearly went belly up, but I got out of it. And I'd written a couple of books by that stage. I really thank you for saying there were 3 bestsellers. There was only one. The other 2 were good doorstops. I had a garage full of those. So I went on the speaking circuit, and I started writing training programs for long-term unemployed. And so I did that for a while. I managed a rock and roll band in America. I took 4 young guys from Melbourne over to LA, and I was a rock and roll manager for a year in Hollywood, and living in a mansion and smoking cigars on the balcony. And they got cut from Hollywood Records after a year, and we got sacked as managers. So I came back to Melbourne, a failed rock and roll manager. And I've been sober for 38 years now. And I decided several years ago, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I thought, well, I'm getting a bit long in the tooth and my hair's going white. How can I still be relevant? And the one thing that I think I've done fairly well is my recovery, and how I've stayed abstinent for 38 years and got on with my life. So I went back to school and did a diploma in alcohol and drugs. And as a part of that, I had to do 100 hours practical placement at a rehab here in Melbourne. And I'm looking at what they're doing and I'm saying, this is crazy. There's a lot of people out there who are functioning, but have got substance issues. You know, they're on the ice and the coke or the drink or prescription medication. So I did a year researching rehabs, and there's 13,500 of them in America. There's a rehab in America for every 21,000 people. It's amazing.
Jeez.
And most of them are based on a very similar model, started in the 1950s in America and made famous by the Betty Ford Clinic in LA. And it's a therapeutic community model overlaid by a 12-step facilitation program. And to me, it's archaic, the way they go about it. So that's why I wrote 21 Renew. So for the last 3 years, we've had 2 different sorts of programs. We have a residential up in Bali until the virus stopped us. So we take people up there and get them shined up and bring them back and reset them between the years. And the other one was a 12-week non-residential program for people who are suitable. And I take them through a 12-week program, get them off it, show them how to stay off it, get them reset. You've got to get reset between the years. If you don't get reset between the years, you're going to relapse. And and get them shined up and get them off and running again. So that's what I've been doing.
Let's go back to you in the yard, and you're in there, and your mates are, your so-called mates are coming up to you. Are you shit scared?
The first night I went to jail the first time in 1979, I was terrified. Now, I don't know why. I was about 120 kilos. The chances of anyone fancying me were nil, but that's not what I thought. And so yeah, look, you really tell you about, it's jail. But within a couple of days, I know the first time, I think it was the second day I was there, one of my clients came over to see me from another division. He got 3 or 4 of the guys in the yard. He said, make sure you look after Graeme. He's a good guy, blah, blah, blah. So, and once I settled in and understood how it all worked and what you do, you got to be on the ball, but you find a way.
Where did that discipline come from? Like you said, you either give up or get up. Now that's a real, fork in the road, sliding doors type moment. Where did that come from? Where did that desire to go, fuck it, I'm going to do something, or fuck it, I'm just going to die here? Where did that desire to do what you've done come from? Is that have you always had that, or?
No, it started. I didn't think alcohol was my problem, and I thought I needed defence. So I thought I'll get a psych to go back to Trinity and get my IQ results, and then come out here and interview me. And when they interview me, I'll make out like I'm a bit brain dead through too much grog, and I'll put that in the report, and I'll get a lighter sentence. That was the plan. Anyway, Job, I know Job, he came out to see me and did the report. And when I got the report, it was a seminal point. This is what it said. It said, Alford appears as a tragic figure, chronically addicted to alcohol. He's destroyed his family, his life cycle, his friends. In the areas of memory and concentration, he's lost over 40 points from his IQ, having dropped from the top 2% of the population to the bottom 5. But it was the last line. He said he verges on being institutionalised. And I'd never seen myself in that light. Yeah. And for the first time in my life, I had a mirror that worked. And I didn't like what I saw. What I saw was this useless piece of human flesh that had just destroyed everything it passed on the drink. And I knew then I had to do something about the alcohol. So I've been going to Alcoholics Anonymous now for 38 years. And I use that as my major tool in my recovery. But I've done a lot of other things as well. But I
still go to Alcoholics Anonymous now.
Yeah, my word.
Yep.
Yeah, not as much as I used to, but
yep.
Yeah. And I had brain damage. So I thought, well, if you treat your brain like a muscle, the more you work it, the better it gets. So I'm going to start working my brain. So I started reading books. And when I first started, I could only read a couple of lines. I couldn't absorb it. I'd have to read it again. And then it was a paragraph, then it was a page, and then I was speed reading them. I started doing crosswords. I'd play Scrabble. I'd do anything to sharpen up. And then I started to realise that I was going to have to learn to handle rejection. I had prior convictions. I had serious prior convictions. And I couldn't practice as a lawyer again, obviously, so I've been disbarred. Yeah. And got disbarred as a taxi driver as well. I can't believe it, but I got life as a taxi driver. Anyway, I thought, I've got to toughen up mentally. I've got to learn to handle rejection, and I've got to learn how to deal with it, because I've got plenty coming my way. So I developed this whole mental toughness regime, and I do it to this very day. I've been doing it for 37 years now, all designed to toughen me up mentally to handle what life throws at you. The disappointments and all sorts of different things. So I've been doing those, and that's proved to me anyway to be fantastic.
How low did it get? Did you ever get to the point where you were going to tap out and take your own life, and that was it?
I never thought of taking my own life, but I knew knocking around with the armed robbery teams and doing what we were doing, that there was every chance that this could end badly. And if it did, I can remember saying to myself, well, so be it.
You were that carefree about it. It was just,
well, I wasn't carefree. I couldn't see any other alternative.
Yeah.
You know, I was disbarred. I'd managed a couple of pubs, and that didn't last because I was drinking, and I had no direction. You know, like I had one foot in the underworld and I had one foot in the real world, and people in the real world kept saying, "What are you doing?" And you know, and I was like aimless, and I couldn't see a way out. And the jail sentence was actually a blessing, absolute blessing, because it actually forced me to confront the issues and do something about it, or make a choice whether I do or I don't.
I'm really intrigued by this because I know mates of mine that gamble too much, they drink too much, and they are at that point where they're nearly broken. And I'm fearful that they're going to make a decision that they only need to bugger it up once, and that's it. And it just, I love doing interviews like this because it gives them hope that it can be done. Because I think is that the overwhelming thing, that it's just, I can't do this. I'm loaded up with fear and lack of motivation, and I just, people need to know that it can happen, and that's the main reason we got you on tonight, to show where you can come from and get to.
Let me start with, there's no such thing as a hopeless case.
Yeah.
No such thing. I've been working with people for a long time now, and I've seen some unbelievable comebacks, men and women. But the starting point is you've got to find someone or a program that you actually believe can get you out of the mire. Yeah. I'll never forget, I was doing a program for the long-term unemployed 15 odd years ago. And at the start of the program, I used to show a 30-minute video of my life. So rather than me try and explain it, watch the video, then you know who the facilitator is. Anyway, there was this guy sitting at the back of the room. And at the end of it, I said, okay, anyone got any questions? This guy said, mate, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You finished up eating with a wooden one in Pentridge. You got your right whack. So that's fair enough. Anyone got any other views? And these two ladies sitting on the left said, well, I've got a different view. And I said, what's that? She said, right now, I am in a big black hole in my life, just like you were back then. So I want to know how you got out, because that might help me get out. So my point is that there's a way out, but you've got to believe the person who you're working with or talking to can show you the way. Psychs they're fantastic psychologists, great people. But you really need to talk to people who've climbed a mountain, that have been there and done it. I call it the pull-through effect. If I'm trying to get through a forest and someone gives me a machete and says, well, you can cut your way through the forest, or you can follow that guy who created a path over there, which way do you want to go?
Take the path.
You're going to take the path every time. So, but look, when you're gambling and drinking and using coke and ice, the mental torment is phenomenal up here. Gamblers, they've robbed and plundered. And gambling, one of the problems with gambling in particular is you don't come home pissed and you haven't got a red face, or you're not high on coke or ice or whatever. So it's almost undetectable. Yeah. So the shit doesn't hit the fan with gamblers until there's nothing left. The super's gone, the second mortgage on the house with the false names on the mortgage is gone. But you've lived through hell because this impending doom keeps getting closer, and you know it's getting closer. And that causes you to drink, causes you to use drugs to relieve it. So the more mental pressure we put on ourselves, the more we need medication in the form of drugs and alcohol to relieve that. But it's only short term. It only relieves it for the night, and you wake up in the morning and it's worse.
Does alcohol lead to gambling, or does gambling lead to alcohol?
Oh, neither. But, you know, some people just gamble. You know, they've got the bug and they get it and they're addicted to it. But the one thing about alcohol is after half a dozen beers or whatever, the red light goes off and the green light comes on. So alcohol is often a gateway into ice and cocaine, especially cocaine. And, you know, I've got clients functioning, very successful people in business who've got coke and alcohol issues. You know, they have a couple of drinks and next minute they're on the coke. Gamblers, over the years I've worked with several. It's a mental thing, gambling. You've got to change the whole mental apparatus up here, because for a gambler, it's that mental enjoyment, that thrill that they're getting. You've got to be able to replace that with other things.
And obviously the alcohol blurs it. So as you say, you go from red light to green light, and yeah, the decision-making process is all clouded.
Absolutely.
And you become immune to 6-pack a night. You go from 6-pack to 8 to 10, and then suddenly I can do 2 6-packs a night. Do
well, your tolerance builds. Your tolerance builds. And
yeah.
So that's the other thing. When we first start drinking, if we've got drinking issues, not everyone's addicted to alcohol. They've just got, they're abusing it, right? But it becomes habitual. So, and that feeling you get with alcohol, you'd start chasing it. And you used to get it after 2 beers when you first started having a drink.
Yep.
Now you get it after 8, and then quite often you don't get it at all. You drink yourself sober, almost chasing that feeling that it doesn't arrive. So
Yep.
it's, you know, and like I see people who abuse alcohol, they're not addicted, but they abuse it, and their body starts breaking down, and all sorts of things start happening physically to them. Mentally, they're okay. But physically, it really takes a toll, especially when you're over 40.
How important is to understand yourself and understand who you are?
Critical.
Why is that?
Things, well, we go through school and home and school and business, and we never work out who we are. We acquire our values and principles from mum, dad, brother, sister, neighbours, aunties, uncles, school teachers, guys or girls we mix with at school and in business. But we never hardwire ourselves. And that's one of the things I did back in jail. I hardwired myself to the 5 principles I try and live my life by. Now, I don't get it right 100% of the time. No one is. But I know I've got a decision-making process. What's more important? So my mental health's more important than my career and my family, because I haven't got my mental health. It all goes.
Yeah.
And people say, "Why do you still go to AA?" And I say, "Well, do you insure your house against burning down?" Yeah. Is it likely to burn down? No. Well, that's why I go to AA.
Yeah.
I probably won't pick up a drink, but if I keep going to AA, I know I won't.
Yeah. So
that's why I go. And I treat AA differently from a lot of people, but anyway, that's a whole different story. But it's getting mental alignment. I don't have conflict in my head. I have issues I've got to deal with, but I don't have conflict. And my confidence and self-esteem about who I am, how I project myself, and how I want to be seen, I'm feeling very comfortable and have for a long, long time about that. People I work with have got all these issues rattling around in their head. They feel guilty, their self-esteem and their confidence is down, especially people in business who are putting on this front because that's what they think people expect them, but they know they're almost a fraud in their own head. And so the best way to get rid of that feeling is to have a drink or have a bit of coke or, you know, marijuana or, you know, prescription medication, or go down to the pokies and bang a grand through the pokies just to relieve that feeling in your head. And you do for a short time, but then next morning it's back.
Back again.
And it's worse because and And we've all tried, you know, I'll give up tomorrow, I'll start Monday, this is the last time. And the more we promise ourselves and the more we break the promises, the more we think, I must be different, I'm a hopeless case, there's no way out of this. And that's when you're getting into very, very dangerous country. And let me tell anyone who's listening tonight, there is always a way out, always. No such thing as a hopeless case.
So should people do what you do in grade their life, you know, what's the most important thing? And their mental health, as you say, if they haven't got their mental health, their job and their family will be affected by that. And working out who they are internally and being happy with that and the perception of other people of them, that's what I find too. People go, well, he thinks I'm a lowlife. Well, that's because you act like one, but you're not that person. It's all about standing tall, and perception is so much. And if people will invest in you, if you invest in you, would that be fair?
Yeah, look, the starting point, if you've got substance issues, you've got to deal with those first, because you can't do anything until you get yourself on the straight and narrow or under control. But then you've got to go on a journey of self-realisation of who I want to be, and it's got to be realistic and it's got to be grounded. And, you know, there's lots of different programs out there. Search on the internet, whatever.
What are some little tips, though, that people can do who are watching tonight and go, you know what Graeme is talking about, that's me. How do I project a better version of me? Is it about accepting who you are and who you've become first?
No. You never accept. If your life's not working, you don't accept that.
Yep.
What you say is, I need to change. I need to make some changes. What changes do I need to make? I did a balance sheet on my life back in 1982. Simple balance sheet. On the liability side, destroyed my career, destroyed my marriage, destroyed all my friendships, grossly overweight, no principles, no morals, all that sort of stuff. So I took each of those and said, I've got to fix that. How am I going to fix it? I've got to fix that. How am I going to fix it? So that's what I did. You know, I sat down and just got honest with myself and wrote these down. I've got to fix this, this, and this. And then each one, I had a thing. And look, it all hasn't turned out bed of roses. You know, like I got 2 sons from my first marriage. When I got out, finished up seeing them. I hadn't seen them for 5 years. We had a great relationship for 10 years. And then I got a lot of publicity in the late 90s when the ABC did the Australian Story, did something on me, and bringing out Gorbachev and Mandela and Schwarzkopf and all those guys. So he didn't think it was fair that his mother, who brought him up, you know, was now taking a back seat, and I was getting all this in. So I'm estranged from him, and I live in the belief that one day he'll come back into my life. My other son, I've got a very close relationship with. He had a very bad accident 15 years ago. Nearly died. So, you know, we're very close. So it's learning how to deal with these things. You know, it's learning how to deal with life and get on with it and start to really enjoy the journey and work out what you've got to do and how you're going to do it.
Would it be an idea, that whole balance sheet theory, you know, which I love, is, you know, I'm good at this, or this is what I need to improve, and this is what I'm good at. Okay, so, you know, I've got great work ethic. I'm never late. I'm reliable, but I'm angry. I drink too much, and then just go through that. Is it worth getting someone you know and trust and believe in to do the same sort of thing on you? Just to
absolutely. I mean, if you can find a really good mate and the two of you do it with each other, that's perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
You know, like if you and I do it and you do yours and I question you on yours, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Because then you become accountable.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you, TURTS, well, you know, what have you done about anger? You've learned that anger management course. You know, what have you done? And then same coming back the other way. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah,
It's very, very difficult by yourself. I mean, I was forced to do it by myself, But even in jail, I got some help, especially from a couple of school teachers in jail.
Yeah.
So I got some help, but most of it I designed myself because I had no choice. But these days there's help out there. I mean, with the internet, YouTube, and everything, there's so much stuff out there. You got to be careful who you choose. You know, a lot of people are full of you know what.
Yeah.
And my comment, you know, I said to you before, always speak to someone who's climbed the mountain, not someone who's written a book about climbing the mountain.
Yeah, someone who's done it.
Yeah, who's been there, been through the grinder, experienced what you're experiencing because they know how you feel. It's like saying to a guy with one arm, I know how you feel. You don't know how he feels. He's got one arm, you've got two.
Yeah.
It's impossible. But where you can speak to someone who's been down the path that you're currently on, it's pure gold because they know how you feel. They know exactly how you feel because they've been there. And what's good from your point of view is you're looking up ahead and he or she's been and is doing what you want to do. I've got to say, be very careful whose tail lights you follow.
Yep.
They get the right set of tail lights and wow, bang, away you go.
Do you find people who are struggling, right, with their own life and due to alcohol or addiction, do you find that they try and surround themselves with people and they try and put those people underneath them and so that they can feel better about themselves?
Yeah, look, not a lot though, not a lot. Most people that I work with in the alcohol and drug area, who either got that compulsive gene in the body, everything they do is full ball. Like if I'm playing golf, I'm playing golf.
Yeah.
If I want to get my handicap back down to 7 or 8 or whatever it is, I'm challenging, I want to get back down to 8. I've got down to 5 and I'm blown out to 13. Anyway, I set myself the challenge to get back to 8. And looks like a bridge too far at the moment, but it won't be for the lack of effort. So if you've got the compulsive gene in your body, in your DNA, everything you do, you're full ball. That means when you're drinking, it's full ball. When you're on the drugs, it's full ball. That's the downside. But the upside is if you flick that switch over to more positive things, then the comeback and the fix can be very quick. So when I flicked that switch, you know, I decided I was going to run a marathon, which I did in '89. Don't get too excited. I finished in that half of the race that makes the first half possible. When I run, they don't use stopwatches; they use alarm clocks. So, but there's all sorts of things like mental toughness exercise. I did the icebergers for a year in the '80s. Tough. I'll never do that again. It is freezing in the middle of winter, but pushing myself all the time to get better. And because I had the compulsive gene, I push. Other people drink or use drugs to self-medicate, to handle the depression, to handle that a marriage is not working, to handle the pressure at work. And you know, a number of my clients over the last 18 months have been self-medicating, and it's just got worse and worse because it's become habitual.
Yeah.
And once we show them how to get rid of the stress and tension doing other things, like yoga. If you had told me 2 years ago that I would do yoga almost every day, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
To me, yoga was for left-wing tree huggers. I used to just think it was crazy. And I'll never forget, we were doing a retreat up in Bali. And I had this 68-year-old businessman. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, if I don't do the yoga, he won't. And I had a knee replacement, and I was using that as an excuse not to do the yoga. So I started doing it. And about a week and a half later, I'm thinking, oh, I feel better. Anyway, then we shifted the villas where we were holding the retreats, and we had another lady come in and do the yoga. And she started doing the meditative stuff as well. And I got hooked. And I do it probably 6 days a week now for 20, 25 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm an absolute believer in it now. Let me tell you, it just clears your head, gets the tension out of you. It's gold, pure gold. I tell everyone, do it. Don't think, as John Kennedy said, don't think, do.
The late great man. Mate, the lack of fulfillment leads to issues and misunderstanding of purpose and goal setting. That's that lack of confidence, that lack of drive. Once that goes out of a bloke, it's a downhill slide, isn't it?
Yeah, look, one of the things that I work with is it's called the 2% mindset, and that is 2% of the people actually operate outside their comfort zone.
Yep.
So what are we doing each day to stretch our comfort zone? What are we doing to get outside our zone, come back in? Get outside our zone, come back in. I call it mental gears. Up into overdrive, back in. And people who live inside their comfort zone too much suffers from stress, anxiety, depression, and that requires medication, alcohol, drugs, whatever. People who practice the art of getting outside their zone often, and I do it every day, what that means is that you don't get stressed out there, and you actually enjoy it out there. So when you come back inside the zone, you can relax. When we practice the 2% mindset and getting ourselves outside the zone enough, we challenge ourselves all the time. I mean, I'm 71 years old, and I've never been more excited about what's coming up over the next 2 or 3 years and what I've got on my agenda as anything I've ever done. Because I just love the thrill of getting out and taking on something, and we've got a couple of things in mind at the moment I'm working on. But, you know, people say to me, why don't you retire? So I couldn't think of worse than retiring. You retire when they put you in a pine box. There's no pack racks on coffins. You know, when they bury you, down it goes, and the car doesn't go down, and the share certificates, you know, they go to the wake and everyone says what a good bloke you were, and then next day your kids are in the lawyer's office arguing over the will, and 6 months later your missus marries the next door neighbour. You're lucky if they think about you a year later. So, you know, I don't want to get to the other end sitting on the front porch saying, oh, I wish they hadn't done this, I wish they hadn't done that. I want to get to the other end on the porch saying, shit, I wish they hadn't done that.
Yeah. And
it's learning how to live. I haven't failed at anything. And everyone says, it's bullshit, Graeme, you failed as a lawyer. I said, no, I didn't fail. I haven't failed at anything. I've done a lot of things that I wouldn't do again, but I've learnt from every one of them. Everything's a learning curve. And as soon as I take failure out of my life and look at my life as a whole series of things that have occurred, and hopefully I've learned from them. Sometimes it took me a while to learn, but hopefully if we learn from them, we look at our past very differently. Too many people looking, you know, they're driving through life in the rear vision mirror, looking backwards, and you can't change. You can't change it. So what value is there saying, oh, I should have bought that block of land, and if I hadn't have sold that, I hadn't have done this, you know, it's a useless exercise. What we should be saying to ourselves, what did I learn from that? What did I learn from that marriage that went bad? What did I learn from, you know, whatever? And then we look at our life as an accumulation of learnings. Some, I'll never do that again. Some, yeah, I like that, I'm going to do that again. But if we look at it that way, we don't get into that depressive mode. I'm a failure, you know, my life's a failure. No, it's not. You just haven't opened up. You haven't unwrapped the gift yet.
How important are mates through all this process?
Critical, the right mates.
Yeah.
The right mates. My experience is that we probably finish up with 6, 8, 10 really close friends.
Yep.
In life. Meet a lot of people, a lot of acquaintances or friends, but really good friends. I mean, people, when the heat's on in the trenches, they're standing next to you. You don't meet many of them. And never mistake one for the other. Never mistake. And look, I've thought over the years, I've had some really close friends. I've been let down a couple of times, but that's right. I don't get upset about it. I'd rather start with the view, he or she's a good person, rather than, oh, I don't know about you, because you never, you know. And look, sometimes we make wrong calls. I've made plenty of them. Have I ever? There's nothing wrong with making a wrong call. It's continuing it on out of ego or pride, rather than saying, didn't work, stop.
Yeah.
I have no problems now. If I start something and it's not working, I've got no problem saying, so no, stop, it's not working. Oh, well, it failed. No, it didn't fail. We tried it, it just didn't work. Now we know it doesn't work.
How important is that, realizing that, and that the ability to be able to forgive? That's something I personally have struggled with over the duration. Something that I used to really stick in. I was a really black and white person. And if you did me wrong, fuck you, that's it. You're out. Light switch, bang, gone. I'm really trying hard to change that. And I think I've made some progress in the last couple of years, more so through 100 Words Mate to Mate. But what do you say to people that really have that struggle? Because I think that gets in the way, and it still does for me even now.
Yeah, look, in business, you're going to get shafted. That's a fact. You try and reduce the number of times you get shafted by becoming smarter about who you do business for. But some people are just unscrupulous, and that's the way it is. It's happened to me several times.
Yep.
Apart from one incident, I just say, well, it's my fault. I fell into it. Well, no, even in that case, I went in to visit with this guy, and everyone warned me, but I knew, no, he'll be fine, and didn't. They were right and I was wrong again. I've long since learned I'm not a good picker of people to go into business with. But I look at, I take responsibility for everything I do. So if something doesn't work, or I'm doing something with someone and it doesn't work, I don't blame them, I blame myself. Because if I've relied on them and they haven't done it, well, that's my fault. It's not their fault. I shouldn't have trusted them in the first place. I should have been smarter.
Do you think that's one thing? I think blokes struggle with rejection, and I think blokes struggle with that when they get it wrong, not admitting that they've got it wrong. Putting their hand up and going, mate, I screwed that up. But what do I do from here to make it better and forget? As you said, no point looking in the rear vision mirror. Let's just go from here to here, move forward, rather than looking in the rear mirror and going, mate, you're still blaming me for that. We're still talking about that. And rejection. Blokes really, really struggle with rejection.
Yeah, especially with females.
Yep.
But I look, no one likes rejection. No one likes rejection. I've been made redundant a couple of times. No one likes it. It's just not pleasant. But you've got to deal with it. And the best way to deal with it is to say, okay, one door closes, another one opens. Sitting around a kitchen table sopping isn't going to fix anything.
Yeah.
You know, going down to the pier and jumping off doesn't fix anything. All you're doing is leaving behind a mess. And as I've said a couple of times tonight, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. It just isn't. And there's always a way out. There was a great line in that movie, Apollo 13. Now, I remember being at the pictures and I'm watching it, and Ed Harris was the actor in charge of the command centre. And they were trying to bring, Tom Hanks was one of the astronauts, and they were trying to bring the spacecraft back down through the narrow part of the stratosphere. And everyone in the command centre was saying, it can't be done, it's impossible, can't be done. And Ed Harris said, stop, everyone look at me. Today, failure is not an option. And I've sat bolt upright in the picture theatre. I've written it down on my hand. I've come home, and as I'm talking to you now, over the back on the wall, I've got a sign, failure is not an option. If we take failure off the table, it forces us to find a solution. If we leave failure on the table, we will rationalise our way to failure and feel okay about it. It's the economy, it's the virus, it's this, it's that. There's always a way if we look for it and we talk to people and we don't just sit in a shed and drink ourselves away and wallow in self-pity. Get on the phone, talk to your friends. What do you think I can do here? What do you think the skills are? You know, why would people hire me? Whatever. Talk to people. You know, we've all got people we can talk to.
What would you say to someone who's watching tonight and they can honestly say to themselves, look in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm drinking far too much and I have to stop, but I don't know how. What do you say to them?
First of all, I need an assessment, and I'm, no charge or anything, but if anyone watching tonight wants to discuss that with me, please feel free to give me a call. There's no single answer to what you're asking.
Yep.
There are people who are still functioning that can find ways to come back to social drink or cut it back. There are people who need to go abstinent. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fabulous group if you're introduced to it properly, and you find the right way to approach it. But like any organisation, if you go in the wrong way, you can think it's a disaster. People are often going to a meeting and they see all these signs on the wall, and people are talking about God, and they go, "What have I gotten myself into? I'm out of here."
Mm.
And it's a shame because it doesn't have to be that way at all. It can be very different. So, look, anyone listening tonight, I'm happy to talk about it. There's no single answer to what you're asking, except you've got to do something about it.
Is that half the battle to realise, look in the mirror, realise and make that call?
Yeah.
That's the first step, isn't it?
Absolutely the first step.
Yeah.
There's a great saying in AA, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yeah.
If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, we'll do something about it. You don't have to put up with it. There's always a way out.
Yeah. Mate, we've got a question here from Ash, and Ash watches every week. Ash, there's a fair chance I'll run into you tomorrow because I'm coming down your neck of the woods. Here's a young bloke. My question is for Graeme, is that if you could go and see your younger self again, would you have stopped yourself from doing the stuff you did, or would you let it play out because it made you who you are today? Good question, young Ash.
That's a super question, isn't it?
Absolutely. From a young man, that's a sensational question.
There's certain things I would have eradicated, but a lot of things I wouldn't have eradicated the prison sentence.
Yeah.
It gave me a whole different view on life. I appreciate things in life that most people don't. I remember visiting a very successful businessman in jail in America in the 90s. I brought his son out here on a speaking tour. And he got pinged for tax evasion, got 4.5 years. Very successful, multi-squillionaire. Anyway, I was sitting there with him talking. I said, Stu, one day you're going to look back on this and you're going to say, this is one of the best things that happened in my life. And he looked at me and said, Graeme, as long as my ass faces south and my head faces north, you'll never hear those words coming out of my mouth. Now, fast forward 4 years and got out. Carol and I went over to see him over to Connecticut and at the front of his big store. And we went to dinner that night with him. He said, Graeme, you know that day in jail, you said that. And when I said, yeah, I remember it well. He said, I know what you mean now. Mm. He said, I appreciate things that I didn't appreciate, I took for granted. So, yeah, Ash, great question. I mean, look, I don't know that if I went back and said, okay, well, I'm going to play footy, I'm not going to drink, I'm going to do this, I don't know how it would have turned out. I really don't. Because I look back on my life now and it's been fantastic. I mean, if you'd have said to me sitting in a prison cell in 1982, that 17 years later, I'd be sitting in the Grand Hyatt with Nelson Mandela having a cup of tea with Carol and him, I would have said, man.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I say there's no such thing as a I've seen miracles. I've seen people, everyone said, oh, she's got no hope, he's got no hope. And then 2 years later, they've shined up and got on with it and enjoyed life. Life shouldn't be tough. It shouldn't be. We're meant to enjoy it. Yeah, look, we have tough days. Everyone has tough days or tough things occur. But it's about how we look at them. It's our attitude towards it. People say, Graeme, your glass is always half full. It's bloody as it is. Why would I want it half empty?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't answer your question, Ash. I don't know. It's a great question, right?
Yeah. As I said, mate, for a young guy, Ash is only 19, 20 years of age, and he's got a head on his shoulders that's far superior to mine, I can assure you.
But there is one thing I can say, Ash.
Yep.
Just be careful of the road bumps and try and avoid it, mate. There's a couple of road bumps I should have avoided.
Like the bank.
Yeah.
My good friend Anthony Brown, who I saw today, he's a ripper. Turts, you had a tough middle of the day, but what's your number you're going with now? Mate, after I said this at the start, after speaking to Graeme, before speaking to Graeme, I was rolling at about an 8. Mate, just words of wisdom and just really simple things like not looking in the rearview mirror, get that done, move forward, get up or give up. I think it's really, really powerful. And mate, you've given some really good tips tonight for those guys who are out there struggling with the drink and struggling to know who they are. And that's one thing I see a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of guys struggling out there, mate. I'm sure with COVID and everything, the people that do your courses are probably tripled, I'd imagine. You would have seen a lot of
pain. Look, COVID's been really tough on a lot of people. I mean, for mums that are at home with the kids, especially the kids who are under 10, they're a nightmare.
Yeah. Because
they require so much attention, and you can't get out and have a drink with your girlfriends or, and the guys are, at home, and a lot of people have been out of work and they're on JobKeeper, and they're worried about the mortgage payments, and it's been really ugly, really ugly.
Two things. One thing I want to we wrote down here when we spoke the very, very first time is where we don't use alcohol as a stress relief.
Absolutely.
Go and use fitness or yoga or meditation, like you said.
Exercise.
Yeah, excellent. Try something rather than the bottle.
Yeah, with clients who are going to drink again, in their plan, inevitably, don't drink when you get home to relieve the pressure or tension of the day.
What should you do when you get home?
Go for a walk, do yoga, do some exercise, have a sleep. I don't care what you do. Just don't drink. If you're going to, because then it becomes habitual. Because what happens is up here, the trigger is I'm stressed, I need a drink. I mean, how many times my daughter, she's a lawyer. She come home, oh, I need a drink. I said, why do you need a drink? I'm stressed. Well, you sit down and watch telly, have a cup of coffee. No, I need a drink. Now, she's okay. She's not an alcoholic or anything. But it just gets more and more and more. So now what we're self-medicating. We're prescribing our own medication for stress relief. It's called alcohol.
Yeah. How important is if you're around someone who's doing that, they're coming home every night, drinking and to relieve the stress, how much of an important role do you play when you can see that, to acknowledge it and say, I'm here to help you, I won't drink either? Because it's really easy when someone's already home and they're drinking. You come home, stress straight, shit one, yep, I'm in, let's go.
And look, what can often happen, let's because we're talking about guys at the moment. Guy comes home, I've got a client at the moment, he's a concreter, right? Comes home, works his ass off, hot day, opens up a beer. There you go, drinking again. Well, I deserve a fucking drink. Yeah. I've been working my ass off all day. You don't bitch and moan when I give you the money every week and driving a car and, going to holidays in Bali and whatever. So we get into this I deserve a drink mentality.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous because now we're justifying it and we're using the dispute between your partner and yourself. So you should never use alcohol as a stress reliever.
Yeah.
Celebration. Yeah, I'm not a big rap for it, but if you want to celebrate something, have a drink. If you're going out for dinner, have a drink. If you're at a party, have a drink. But why would you come home after a hard day, go out the back and have 2 or 3 stubbies or 4 stubbies and a cigarette to relieve the heat? Because that'll become habitual. The 3 becomes 4, the 4 becomes 5. Then it becomes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then it becomes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Just grab a bottle of water and go for a walk.
Mm.
Yeah, mate, I could talk to you for the next 4 hours and we could run a 6-part mini series for the next 6 Tuesdays. Mate, thank you so much for your really, really valuable time tonight. It's been a real pleasure for me personally. I should have mentioned this before. We got to meet Graeme. Graeme spoke on a panel for the event we did for Mitcham, and a big thanks to Daniel Norton, who's a good mate of Graeme's, who got Graeme involved. Made a real profound effect on the people when he got up and spoke at the panel. And from the panel that Graeme was at, there was Graeme and Daniel Burgess and Luke Richards. By these guys telling their story, 11 guys got up and independently, in an open mic forum with 160 blokes who they didn't know, got up and told their story. So we cannot wait once Uncle Dan releases the shackles a little bit more, Graeme, to get you back to one of those, because that was an unbelievable night. To see those guys stand up in that environment was so powerful.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Really good.
So, mate, thank you for your, as I said, thank you so much for your time. You're an absolute star, and I hope you handicap down to 8, mate. If you ever want to hit a golf, I'll make you look real good.
you can't be much of a golfer if you're going to do that.
No, but mate, I'll turn your 9 into a 10 real quick, mate. Don't worry about that.
Thanks,
Graeme, you're an absolute star, mate. I owe you one.
Pleasure, mate. All the best.
Thank you so much for your time. Cheers, buddy.
Okay. Bye.
Guys, to be able to get a man like that, he speaks all over the world in front of millions of people, and as I said, deals with the top 500 companies in the world. For him to come on this little show of ours, Mate to Mate at 8, is a huge get for us, a huge get. And big thanks to Dan Norton for helping me get that over the line. Graeme's an unbelievable man, and he's so giving of his time. We had a good chat on Saturday with Walter, myself, and he's just an absolute ripper. I could have spoken to him forever. Guys, as I do every week, thank you so much to our sponsors. Shelley Wood from Splice Communications does an amazing amount of work for us. I love Shell. Thank you so much. And now that we can get down to Geelong, we're going to go down and have lunch with Shell. To Matt Atkin from Atlas Brokers, does a huge amount for 100 Words Mate to Mate. We thank him and his team. And to Brett Phillips, who runs the First Serve, the only tennis show in this country of ours. He does a hell of a lot for the tennis community, and he does a hell of a lot for us. I'm actually having dinner with him on Thursday night, and I cannot wait. Now, those who stay tuned, we run a barbecue cooking series called Meat to Mate. It's on Thursday night. We're running one this Thursday, next Thursday, the 19th, and the following Thursday, the 26th. So go to the website, www.100words.org.au. In the pack, it's $40. We get 4 chicken wings, a 400-gram porterhouse steak, corn on the cob, garlic mushrooms. What else we got? Baked potato. It's expertly cooked. You cook at your house, and we tell you how to do it by one of Melbourne's best butchers, Josh from Glenferrie Gourmet Meats. I host tonight. We give you a few stats, talk about it, and we just make it really, really easy for you to get your mate along, have a steak. The barbecue is one really, really comfortable place where blokes feel comfortable. Guys, on behalf of myself, Walt, who does all the work behind the scene, he's an absolute gun. Big thanks to him. Next week, I think we've got Anthony Rocker. The Pebble is coming on board. So really looking forward to speaking to Ant next week. So, guys, have a great week. I hope your week's a 10 out of 10. Sun's out, guns out. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Thanks.